her today, she really framed herself as a populist, right? There she is on Roosevelt Island, sort of hearkening back to the Roosevelts. The focus was on equality in pay, on higher wages, much more than foreign policy. Is that a smart strategy?
I mean, this was a speech with a lot of domestic policy, as you point out, and wrapped around what to do about the middle class, what to do about stagnant wages, but almost nothing specific on foreign policy, which is rather surprising for a former Secretary of State.
Yeah, it was kind of curious, wasn't it, with all the talk about her coloring her hair and being a grandmother, and she's not going to age in office the way men do, and then talking about her mother. You kind of got the drift of where she was going. Joining us now is Cliff May, president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, Washington Times columnist, and it's defenddemocracy.org. Hey, Cliff.
Hey, Steve. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. All right, let's start, first of all, with the former Secretary of State, who's gotten us into, along with Barack Obama, so many of the messes we're in right now, totally made like it didn't exist on Saturday during her speech.
She has kind of a predicament here. On the one hand, she should be playing the foreign policy card. She has been Secretary of State. On the other hand, her record as Secretary of State is hardly stellar. Very difficult to say what the achievements are. If you look at various things that happened under her watch, the reset with Russia, not terribly successful. Benghazi, obviously, that was a catastrophe, and that's a generous way to put it. The pivot to China, would anyone say that has gone very well? The Middle East is more than collapsing. We have over 200,000 deaths now in Syria and in Iraq. Libya is in chaos. Yemen is in chaos. So I don't know how she talks about her record there. In terms of, I also think she's reluctant to criticize President Obama for his policies, not just because she was part of them, but also because she wants his support as much as she can have it. And then there's a question of what she would do different in terms of foreign policy, in terms of defense, national security. If she has thought through those questions and has a vision, a plan, a strategy, we haven't heard it and we don't know what it is, and she certainly hasn't been willing to articulate it up to now.
All right, let's move into where we are now with regard to this, P5+1 talks and Iran and the deadline. I don't know. I hate saying deadline because they'll just move it, but the deadline is coming up in a couple of weeks. Where are we? I mean, Iran first said there'd be no inspections, and now now the great people of the great leadership of Iran said, oh, guess what? We can inspect. I mean, the whole thing is a circus.
Yeah, first of all, Steve, I think you're right. The deadline is at the end of this month, but that deadline could be moved. There are indications it may be. Once again, not for the first time, we see the president not just giving way on various demands from the Iranians, they're refusing to challenge red lines established by the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, but seemingly moving to what might be called preemptive appeasement. We've recently had the State Department cutting off funds for a moderate Shia group in Lebanon that would challenge Hezbollah. Do we really not want to support moderate Shia in Lebanon? Do we really want to, by implication, support Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, which is oppressive within that country? It's the de facto government that is more powerful than the government and that threatens Israel with hundreds of thousands, possibly, of missiles pointing at Israel from southern Lebanon.
Cliff, maybe we do.
I don't know.
Maybe he does.
It's very hard to say. I do think that it is looking like this agreement will at best be what Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who served as military intelligence chief for Obama for 2 years, said in testimony to Congress last week. At best, it will be a placeholder for a while. But what he also said is that anybody who believes that a nuclear-capable Iran, now in the process of developing intercontinental ballistic missiles that can deliver nuclear weapons to the U.S., and they are. It's not even part of the deal, not even part of the negotiations. He said anyone who thinks that's okay is not a pragmatist, he's a pyromaniac.
Yeah,
that's from the former intelligence chief to this president.
That is a great line. Now, Obama went on Israeli television and repeated the same lie that he has repeated, that Iran has lived up to every part of the pre-agreement, if you will, when people thought they wouldn't. And he mocks them and laughs, say, oh, the same people who don't want to say they won't live up to this agreement said they wouldn't live up to the pre-agreement, and they have, when his own Pentagon says they haven't, and the IAEA continues to say, we really can't tell because they won't let us see.
Precisely so. It's sort of shocking, perhaps embarrassing, that you apparently have the President of the United States acting as a PR spokesman for the Islamic Republic of Iran at a time when the Islamic Republic of Iran is continuing to say that their goal, as it has been since the revolution of 1979, death to America. They have violated the agreement. They've gotten great rewards under the agreement. The sanctions pressure was substantially relieved when this interim agreement began, and would be much more relieved should there be a comprehensive agreement at the end of the month. The result of relieving the sanctions pressure partially, Iran's economy went from recession into recovery, and the result of giving them 50, 100, 150 billion dollars to play with, should there be a comprehensive agreement, well, more support for Hezbollah, more support for Hamas, more Shia militias in Iraq. That only spurns ISIS, because they are the ones who say we and only we are willing to defend the Sunnis. There'll be more support for the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And we know there's a lot, though we don't know nearly enough about this, a lot of Hezbollah Iranian intervention and influence peddling going on now in Latin America. Not heavily reported on, don't know a lot from our government on it, but it's taking place, and we've been seeing some very disturbing signs of that going on, not least the death of a prosecutor in Argentina who was looking into Iranian-ordered terrorism in that country. It
is frightening. Hey, Cliff, keep up the great work, and folks, check out defenddemocracy.org. Cliff May, we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, my pleasure. All right, Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center joins us next. Talk a little Seinfeld and more. Don't go away.